The showdown between Apple CEO Tim Cook and President Donald Trump was not just another routine business negotiation. It was a dramatic confrontation that would shape the future of one of the world's most valuable companies, and potentially, the global economy itself. On one side stood Tim Cook, representing Apple's innovative spirit and global reach. On the other, President Trump, determined to push his America First agenda and bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. Their meeting was more than a clash of personalities. It was a high-stakes battle over trade, technology, and the direction of American industry. At the heart of the conflict were proposed tariffs that threatened to make iPhones and other Apple products significantly more expensive for American consumers. These tariffs, if enacted, could have upended Apple's carefully constructed business model, which relies on a complex global supply chain, with much of its assembly taking place in China. Tim Cook faced an immense challenge: how to protect Apple's interests while navigating the political minefield of Trump's policies, which aimed to penalize companies that depended on foreign labor and overseas manufacturing. For Apple, whose products are meticulously assembled in Chinese factories, a 25% tariff could have been devastating, potentially costing billions in lost sales and forcing the company to rethink its entire global strategy. This was more than a corporate dilemma. It was a test of leadership, negotiation, and strategic vision, with consequences that would ripple across the world. Workers, consumers, and international trade partners all stood to be affected by the outcome. The decisions made in these high-level meetings would not only influence the price of everyday products but also impact international relations, global supply chains, and the future of technology innovation. Apple's navigation of this crisis reveals the delicate dance between corporate power and political influence, showing how even the most powerful companies must adapt to shifting political winds. As we unpack this story, we'll see how the fate of a single company became deeply intertwined with national policy, and how decisions made behind closed doors can shape the world we all live in. The high-stakes meetings between Apple CEO Tim Cook and President Donald Trump were more than just photo opportunities. They were pivotal moments, where the future of one of the world's most valuable companies hung in the balance. As Cook sat across from Trump, the stakes were clear. Apple's global business model was under threat. These discussions unfolded against the tense backdrop of the escalating US-China trade war, a conflict that sent shockwaves through the global economy and left multinational corporations scrambling to adapt. President Trump's administration imposed sweeping tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese imports, aiming to pressure China and encourage American companies to bring manufacturing back home. The tariffs were designed to protect U.S. industries, but they also risked igniting a costly tit-for-tat battle. For Apple, whose intricate supply chain is deeply rooted in China, these tariffs posed a direct and immediate threat. Nearly every iPhone, iPad, and MacBook is assembled in Chinese factories, making Apple especially vulnerable to rising costs. Apple's innovative products are designed in California, but their assembly relies on a vast, highly skilled workforce and a network of specialized suppliers in China. This global collaboration has been key to Apple's success, enabling rapid innovation and efficient production at scale. The tariffs forced Apple into a difficult position: either absorb billions in additional costs, which would eat into profits, or pass those costs on to consumers by raising prices. Either option risked damaging Apple's brand, reducing sales, and impacting its bottom line. Tim Cook responded by highlighting Apple's massive economic footprint in the United States. He argued that Apple supports millions of American jobs, not just at its headquarters, but through a vast network of suppliers, app developers, and retail employees across the country. Cook made the case that penalizing Apple would have ripple effects throughout the American economy, potentially slowing growth and harming innovation at a time when global competition was fiercer than ever. The trade war didn't just threaten Apple's profits, it challenged decades of globalization. Companies like Apple, which had built their empires on international cooperation and open markets, suddenly found themselves on the front lines of a new era of economic nationalism. Now, Apple faced a daunting challenge: how to adapt and survive in a world where national interests and protectionist policies were taking precedence over global integration. The company had to rethink its strategies, from supply chain management to pricing and market expansion. Apple's response to this crisis would not only determine its own future, but also set a powerful precedent for how multinational corporations navigate the complex and often unpredictable crossfire of global politics and economic policy. When Tim Cook arrived for his high-stakes meeting with President Trump, he didn't just come armed with well-researched arguments and a sharp business acumen. He came with a plan that went far beyond spreadsheets and talking points. Cook understood that in the world of politics, gestures can speak louder than words, and first impressions can set the tone for everything that follows. That's why he brought a strategic gift, a stunning 24-karat gold plaque, gleaming with the Apple logo. This wasn't just any corporate token, it was a carefully chosen symbol designed to make an impact and send a message before a single word was spoken. The plaque itself was a story. It was designed by a former U.S. Marine working at Apple, crafted from American-sourced materials, and assembled in a U.S. workshop. Every detail was intentional, aligning perfectly with Trump's America First narrative and his appreciation for military service and American manufacturing. Cook's gift was more than a gesture. It was a calculated move to appeal to Trump's values and priorities. This personal touch immediately set a positive, collaborative tone for what could have been a tense negotiation. It broke the ice, signaling respect and understanding, and paved the way for a more productive conversation. Building on this momentum, Cook made a headline-grabbing announcement. Apple would dramatically increase its investment in the United States, pledging an additional $100 billion to American operations, jobs, and infrastructure. This was a bold move, designed to show Apple's commitment to the country and its economy. The announcement allowed Trump to tout a major win for his administration's economic policies, while Apple positioned itself as a patriotic partner, not just a global tech giant. Both sides walked away with a victory to share with their audiences. The move reframed Apple's image in the public eye, transforming it from a faceless multinational corporation into a company deeply invested in America's future and workforce. Behind the scenes, Cook's blend of personal diplomacy and savvy public relations helped Apple secure more favorable treatment in ongoing trade talks, especially as tensions with China threatened the company's global supply chain. This was a textbook example of how corporate leaders can use personal relationships, strategic gestures, and public commitments to influence government policy and protect their company's interests. In the end, Cook's approach proved that sometimes the art of negotiation, the ability to read the room, build rapport, and make the right gesture at the right time, can be just as important as the numbers on the balance sheet. It's a masterclass in corporate diplomacy and a lesson for leaders everywhere. Apple's $600 billion investment pledge was the centerpiece of its strategy. The plan included new campuses, data centers, and increased spending with U.S. suppliers like Corning and semiconductor firms. This investment rippled through the American tech ecosystem, supporting jobs and innovation. In return, the Trump administration praised Apple and linked the investment to tariff relief. The deal was clear: invest in America, get exemptions. While some questioned how much was truly new spending, the headline number shifted the narrative. Apple's financial promise became its shield in a turbulent political climate. Apple's lobbying paid off with a crucial exemption from a 25% tariff on its smartphones. This victory protected Apple's profits and kept iPhone prices stable for consumers. However, Apple still faced costs from existing tariffs, over $1 billion in a single quarter. To adapt, Apple began diversifying its supply chain, expanding production in India and Vietnam. This reduced its dependence on China and insulated it from future trade shocks. Apple's influence, investment promises, and Cook's diplomacy secured a favorable outcome. The episode showed how major corporations can shape economic policy. Apple proved it could protect its interests even in a volatile political environment. Despite big U.S. investments, an all-American iPhone remains unrealistic. Apple's global supply chain centered in Asia is too complex and efficient to replicate in the U.S. Cook emphasized that many high-value components like Corning's glass and U.S.-made chips are American. This narrative let Trump claim a win for U.S. industry, while Apple kept its global model intact. Both sides got what they wanted: political victory and business continuity. The episode highlights that globalization can't be reversed overnight. Apple's approach: invest at home, but keep the global engine running. It's a balancing act that other multinationals are watching closely. Analysts hailed Cook's handling of the tariff crisis as a strategic triumph. Instead of confrontation, Cook chose diplomacy, building a relationship that led to crucial tariff exemptions. The $600 billion investment was a PR masterstroke, packaging routine spending as a political win. This allowed both Apple and the administration to claim victory. Cook's approach turned Apple into a partner, not an adversary, securing favorable treatment. Experts warn, though, that such wins may be temporary in a volatile global trade environment. CEOs now need to be diplomats as well as business leaders. Cook's playbook, engage, invest, and negotiate, will be studied by global companies for years. The episode redefined what it means to lead a multinational in the 21st century. In today's world, business strategy and political savvy go hand in hand. While tariffs dominated headlines, Apple faces a bigger challenge: the race for AI leadership. Rivals like Google and Amazon are surging ahead in artificial intelligence, threatening Apple's dominance. AI powers everything from voice assistants to smart features, areas where Apple's Siri lags behind. Apple's focus on privacy limits some AI capabilities, but it's investing heavily to catch up. The real test for Apple is whether it can innovate fast enough to stay relevant. Political wins matter, but tech leadership defines the future. The AI race will determine if Apple remains at the top. The company's next chapter depends on its ability to lead in innovation, not just politics. The Cook-Trump showdown wasn't just corporate drama, it affected everyday consumers. Apple's tariff victory kept iPhone prices stable, sparing consumers from steep hikes. The story reveals how global politics shape the products we use and the prices we pay. Apple's $600 billion investment could mean new US jobs and innovation. Looking ahead, Apple must keep navigating political risks and win the AI race to shape your tech experience. The episode is a reminder decisions in boardrooms and the White House ripple into our daily lives. Understanding these forces helps us grasp the world we live in, and the one we're building next.